There is something happening inside your brain right now that is quietly destroying your entire year without you even noticing it. It is not laziness, it is not lack of motivation, and it is definitely not because you do not want success badly enough. There is an actual mechanism buried deep inside your brain that activates every single time you try to change your life. And the terrifying part is that it was designed to protect you, but instead it is silently keeping you trapped. Most people will go their entire lives without ever discovering this mechanism exists inside their own head. They will blame themselves, call themselves weak, and wonder why they keep repeating the same failures year after year. But today, you are going to see exactly what this mechanism is, how it operates, and how to shut it down permanently. Let me paint a picture that will probably feel uncomfortably familiar to you right now. January 1st arrives and you feel completely alive with energy, clarity, and an unstoppable sense of purpose. You write down your goals, you plan your new routine, and you genuinely believe that this year will be different. The first week feels incredible because everything is new, exciting, and full of possibility and promise. But somewhere around week 3 or 4, something strange begins to happen inside your mind. The excitement fades, the resistance grows, and a quiet voice starts whispering that maybe this is not worth it. By February, you are back to your old patterns, your old habits, and your old version of yourself. And the worst part is not that you failed. The worst part is that you do not understand why you failed. So you tell yourself the same story you always tell yourself, that you're just not disciplined enough. But that story is completely wrong, and neuroscience has finally proven exactly why it is wrong. What happened to you was not a failure of character, it was an ambush from inside your own brain. The mechanism responsible for this has a name, and once you learn it, everything starts making sense. It's called the Neurological Status Quo Bias, and it is the most powerful invisible force controlling your behavior. Your brain has a deep survival system that treats your current life pattern as safe and familiar territory. It doesn't matter if your current pattern is unhealthy, unproductive, or making you completely miserable. To your brain, familiar equals safe, and safe equals survival, even if familiar is slowly destroying you. Every single time you try to change a behavior, your brain interprets that change as a potential threat, not a logical threat that you can reason with, but a deep, primitive alarm that triggers before you even think. This alarm activates your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, and floods your body with stress chemicals. Those stress chemicals create the feelings of doubt, anxiety, resistance, and that overwhelming urge to quit. And here's the part that makes this mechanism so devastatingly effective at keeping you stuck in place. It doesn't hit you all at once. It doesn't scream at you to stop. It whispers gradually over days and weeks. It sounds like, maybe I should take a break today, or I'll start again fresh on Monday morning. Those whispers feel like your own rational thoughts, but they are actually your brain's defense system activating. This is why smart people, hardworking people, and highly capable people still sabotage themselves every single year. It has nothing to do with intelligence or effort. It's a neurological pattern running beneath conscious awareness. Now, here's where this gets genuinely fascinating, and where you can start taking back control of your brain. Your brain doesn't sabotage everything. It only sabotages changes that cross a specific invisible threshold. Researchers call this the change tolerance threshold, and every single person has one operating inside their brain. Think of it like an invisible electric fence around your current identity and your current way of living. Small changes that stay inside the fence don't trigger the alarm because they feel safe and manageable. But big, dramatic changes that jump over the fence trigger a massive neurological defense response immediately. This is exactly why people who try to completely transform their lives overnight almost always crash and burn. Their ambition jumps the fence, the alarm goes off, and the brain pulls them back to the familiar zone. But people who make changes small enough to stay under the fence, they slip past the defense system entirely. Their brain never registers a threat because the change was too gradual and too small to trigger the alarm. And over weeks and months, those tiny, undetected changes accumulate into massive transformation without resistance. This is not just theory. This is the exact mechanism that Japanese culture figured out centuries before modern neuroscience. In Japan, there is a principle called Kaizen, which means improvement through changes so small they feel almost invisible. Japanese companies used Kaizen to transform from post-war ruins into the most efficient manufacturers on the entire planet. They didn't try to revolutionize everything overnight. They improved one tiny detail every single day without stopping. And the reason Kaizen works so powerfully is because it is specifically designed to bypass your brain's threat detection system. Each change is so small that your amygdala never activates, your stress chemicals never flood, and your resistance never builds. But there's a second layer to this sabotage mechanism that most people never learn about, and it's even more dangerous. Your brain doesn't just resist new behaviors, it actively rewrites your memory to justify quitting and going backwards. This is called retroactive narrative editing, and it happens completely outside of your conscious awareness every single time. After you quit a new habit, your brain creates a logical-sounding story to explain why quitting was the right decision. It sounds like, that routine wasn't realistic anyway, or I work better without a strict schedule holding me down. These stories feel like genuine insights and honest self-reflection, but they are actually post hoc rationalizations manufactured by your brain. Your brain literally rewrites the narrative to make quitting feel like wisdom instead of what it actually was, which was sabotage. And the next time you try to start again, those manufactured stories become the evidence your brain uses against you. It says, remember last time, you tried this and realized it wasn't for you, and you believe it completely. You're not remembering what actually happened. You're remembering the edited version your brain created after quitting. This creates a devastating cycle where every failed attempt makes the next attempt even harder to begin, not because you're getting weaker, but because your brain is building a thicker and thicker wall of false evidence against change. So now the question becomes, how do you break through a defense system that rewrites reality to keep you trapped? The answer comes from understanding something that neuroscientists call the implementation intention protocol. This is not a motivational technique. This is not positive thinking. This is a specific neurological override procedure. An implementation intention works by pre-programming your brain's response to a specific situation before the situation even occurs. Instead of saying, I will exercise more, you say, when I finish my morning coffee, I will put on my shoes and walk outside. That tiny shift from vague intention to specific pre-programmed response changes everything inside your brain's processing system. When the situation arrives, your brain doesn't need to make a decision because the decision was already made in advance. The amygdala never activates because there's no moment of choice, no uncertainty, and no gap for resistance to enter. Studies show implementation intentions increase follow-through rates from roughly 30% to over 90%. That's not a small improvement, that's a complete transformation of your brain's ability to execute on your own goals. But the implementation intention alone is not enough to shut down the entire sabotage system permanently and completely. You need to combine it with a second technique called the minimum viable action, and together they become unstoppable. The minimum viable action means reducing your new behavior to the absolute smallest possible version that still counts as doing it. If your goal is to meditate for 30 minutes, your minimum viable action is to sit quietly and take 3 slow breaths. If your goal is to write a book, your minimum viable action is to open the document and write exactly 1 single sentence. If your goal is to exercise daily, your minimum viable action is to put on your workout shoes and stand at the front door. These actions are so ridiculously small that your brain can't generate any resistance because there's nothing to resist. If anything in this video has now made you suddenly realize why you've been struggling for months or even years, then this message was meant to find you today. And if someone you care about keeps failing at their goals and blaming themselves for it, please share this video with them, because understanding this mechanism could change everything for them. If you want more videos that explain the real neuroscience behind why we struggle and how to actually overcome it, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss what comes next. I would genuinely love to hear your experience in the comments below. Tell me what resonated with you, what you've been struggling with, and what topic you want me to break down in the next video. This channel exists because of people like you who share, comment, and come back every week, and I never take that for granted. Now, let me show you the third and final piece that locks the entire system together and makes sabotage nearly impossible. It's called the identity anchor, and it attacks the sabotage mechanism at its deepest root, which is your sense of self. Your brain's status quo bias isn't really protecting your habits, it's protecting your identity, your story about who you are. When you try to exercise, but you secretly believe you are not an athletic person, your brain fights the behavior to protect that belief. When you try to write, but you secretly believe you are not creative, your brain manufactures resistance to maintain that identity. The behavior fails not because the behavior is too hard, but because it contradicts who your brain believes you fundamentally are. The identity anchor works by deliberately feeding your brain tiny pieces of evidence that a new identity is already forming. Every time you complete your minimum viable action, you say one simple sentence to yourself with complete calm and conviction. I am the kind of person who shows up, or I am someone who follows through, or I am building something that matters. This sentence is not an affirmation, and it is not wishful thinking. It is a vote cast toward your new identity. Each vote is a tiny piece of neurological evidence that your brain collects, stores, and begins to build a pattern around. After enough votes, your brain stops treating the new behavior as a threat and starts treating it as self-expression. The electric fence moves, the alarm system recalibrates, and what once felt impossible starts feeling completely natural and automatic. Now, let me connect all three pieces so you can see the complete system working together as one unified strategy. The implementation intention pre-programs your response, so your brain never has to make a decision in the vulnerable moment. The minimum viable action keeps the change so small that your brain's threat detection system never activates against you. And the identity anchor rewires your sense of self, so your brain eventually protects the new behavior instead of fighting it. When all three work together, you are not fighting your brain anymore. You are working with it for the first time. The sabotage mechanism does not disappear, but it stops targeting you because you are no longer triggering its alarm system. You are moving so quietly, so strategically, and so consistently that your brain never even realizes it is being changed. This is how people who seem effortlessly disciplined actually operate beneath the surface, where nobody can see. They are not more talented, they are not more motivated, and they are not made of some stronger material than you. They simply learned to work with their brain instead of against it, and that single shift changed absolutely everything. So here's exactly what I want you to do right now. Not tomorrow, not next Monday, but right now in this moment. Pick one single change you have been trying to make and reduce it to the smallest possible action that still counts. Create your implementation intention using this exact format. When this specific situation happens, I will do this specific tiny action. And every single time you complete that action, say your identity anchor sentence with calm, quiet conviction in your own mind. Do this every day for 30 days and watch what happens when your brain stops fighting you and starts working for you. The mechanism that has been sabotaging your year is powerful, but it is not smarter than someone who understands how it works. You now understand exactly how it works, exactly why it activates, and exactly how to move beneath its detection system. Every year before this one, you were fighting blind against an enemy you could not see and did not know existed. But from this moment forward, you have the map, you have the strategy, and you have the tools to finally break free. Your brain was never broken, and you were never the problem. The system was just running a program you did not know about. Now you know, and knowing changes everything. Because the person who sees the trap is the person who finally walks free.